Go. Hey, I'm Dr. Kate Walker, and I have a guest today, Joselyn Aguilar, LPC in Houston, Texas, my old stomping grounds. Actually, not exactly where I was. I was north of there, but super cool to talk with her today. And the way this started out was she made a comment that made so much sense to me when we're talking about side hustles and ethics and growth and what does that look like and what do we do, what do we not do. So Joselyn, tell us a little bit about you and your practice dreams.
Yeah, sure. So I have this practice called Creative to Shine Counseling. So my main focus is providing online therapy to women with Christian women going through anxiety. And then the subspecialties are with parenting stress, working stress, and relationship stress, which I know it all ties back inevitably. But that's kind of like my area. So I have that practice. I'm 100% online right now. And so I brought that question because I thought it was very interesting because I know that many of my colleagues, and including myself, we have the idea of, of needing health insurance and benefits, and we understand the um, the the logistics of being in an agency work. I came from agency work for many years, and so that came from a conversation that I had with my colleagues of um being a private practice owner versus being at an agency work where you have benefits. And so the topic came up of what if we have a side hustle, to kind of have the small benefits of an agency work where you have like as a, like a cushion in your income stream. And then I thought it was so interesting how you had that one training a week ago where you said the ethics of having a side hustle. So I thought that was amazing, and thought it was we had a lot to talk about after reading that.
Well, good. And just as a synopsis, what and this is my soapbox when I talk about the ethics of a side hustle, with a therapist, we are, dollar per hour. And so if our clients don't show, then we may not make our budget for the month. And so clients start looking like dollar signs. We start to get stressed. Anxiety goes up, cognition goes down. And so that's our ability to really think through a theory or think, at all, right? And so being able to keep your lights on is comforting. And with that comfort, then you can do better therapy. So that was my premise. But your point was really important, and because it's valid. And when you do the research in the Google, machine, most people say no, pick one thing and focus on it. Right.
Yes.
That's deep work. That's what, you hear a lot of. I was listening to a podcast just yesterday about that, doing deep work, slow work. So it's a valid point. Um, and so I've been thinking about that. Right. And so maybe, I don't know if it's because we're different and we need to have a freer headspace. It's not like we're opening a shoe store or a mechanic shop, nothing against those businesses. Right. It's just that idea of being present in a session. So tell me, as you guys were talking about it, kind of tell me what came up.
Yeah, so the idea also came with, so I have a business coach that she's guiding me through this. So I just started a year ago, and I'm
Excellent.
doing halfway agency work, halfway this, and then in the last 6 months I've been focusing on on my private practice. So my business coach actually said the opposite of what we're talking about. She said there is no backup plan. And so,
The
you know,
bridge is behind you, baby, right?
yeah, and I think that comes from the idea of you have to trust yourself and that
Yeah.
you're going to figure it out. But I can't help but initially when I heard it, and I heard actually in the same week, I heard you saying the ethics of, and I heard somebody else saying that, so I wondered, okay, so what does it mean to have a backup plan? And
Mhm.
so my coach explained to me, and she said it was more like, a backup plan can mean, you having extra sources of income. It doesn't necessarily mean having an employer. Um, and so that's it's just it has a lot to talk about because I was thinking just be hired by somebody else part time.
Mhm.
But then her point was just find another sources of income that don't require you to be an employee, but that still have contributed income. Um, and so it has me wondering about, what are some ways that I can, at least me personally, that I can set up a, steady stream of income that at the same time is not limiting to my practice. Um,
Right.
especially, I mean, as an example, my working hours that I want to work is during school hours because I have two kids.
Yep, I
And
was there.
yeah, and so ideally, if I want to grow my company, I want to have those hours available to make it there. And part of the concern that I had it was that, okay, if I add another stream of income and it's requiring me to work during those times that I'm, that I'm trying to fill up in my practice, that seems kind of like um, slowing me down and counterintuitive to do that. Um, and then having a side hustle on the side, it seems like it would only be like a temporary solution. And so that's the question, like how do we find like something that can work long term, where you feel comfortable?
Great. This is great. So it's bringing up two things for me, and you're going to have to remind me in case I forget. But the first one, and what struck me with your comment was time management. And I'm raising my hand because I'm with you. I had, three kids who were all school age when I was building my business and trying to work just during school hours. And then, the other piece of it is this idea of, okay, what is a passive stream of income? What is so that's really important. So let's talk about time management first, because there is no doubt if you're starting a business, you've got to put in probably whatever you're spending in session, double that outside of the business as you're strategically planning, working with your business coach, getting marketing strategies, pivoting. You've got to do so many things. So that time management piece, it's non-negotiable, right? You have to, and I hope whoever's listening to this understands that as a business owner, you're seeing clients, but you do need to double that, not just for paperwork. This is for your business. So when we think about, or when I think about and preach about outside streams of income, I'm thinking in terms of passive income. So uh, the first thing that comes to my mind is a supportive partner, right? If you're lucky enough to have a supportive partner who says, look, I'll pay the bills while you're building this up, there we go, done and done. Don't have to have an employer, don't have to have any of those things. You just have this person who can give you the peace of mind. All right, well, we don't all have that. So the passive income for, virtual, you close your ears for a second because I'm going to talk about office, for me was just renting out the unused space. And that could have been a Saturday, it could have been a Sunday, it could have been those hours that therapists love, that 3 to 8 p.m., right? Because I didn't see kids, and I knew all the people out there who wanted to see kids would love to be in my office, right? So it's that sort of no-brainer kind of income that I can count on, $200 to $1,000, $200 to $1,000 a month. And I could say, okay, I don't have to worry about that. So those two pieces, the time management piece and sort of the passive income piece, we talk about this with supervisors too, right? So when you become a supervisor, everybody, I don't know, lots of people think, well, I'll just get a ton of supervisees, right? It's a terrible business model unless you're experienced, right? Starting out, there are so many things you can do with your S besides just take on 50 supervisees. And so we preach that start slow, then build. So, it kind of comes down to this idea. No, your business is your number one baby. Set your day up, set your week up so that you're working on it for that client times two, right? And then the passive income ideas, let's brainstorm about that. So you don't really have to think about that. Does that make sense? Does that kind of fall into what you guys were talking about?
Yeah, and it's adding more to that. So me and you are talking about passive income, and initially my mind was thinking extra direct work with another,
Yes.
with somebody else. So
And I've
that
got about that. So that's my bad too, because I'm like substitute teaching, go be a barista, go do, yeah, that still takes brain work.
Yeah. So what do you think about having extra direct work versus having something else? I'm thinking about maybe having intake somewhere else or just some client direct work. How do you think that differs in terms of the big picture of, okay, you're already working and doing all these hours, at admin hours, there's marketing and all business related things and your own direct hours with your company, and then keeping in mind that that's extra additional work that you're doing. Would you think that adding like additional direct hours, from a different company would be better, worse than having some other type of passive? Because it's
So
not harder, I think. It seems like to me, I'm not sure.
yeah, and we have to remember the mental load, right? And so if I'm talking to a mom, we know you carry way more than just like the face-to-face time with your kids, right? You've got mental load with that as well. So I'm kind of gonna stick to what I said earlier. I'm gonna talk about the foundation of your time management and your ability to silo things. And this is no judgment. This is, I mean, we're all different. This is just how we have to kind of know ourselves. So for me, getting up at 4 in the morning and working for 3 hours before my kids got up, that was my business time. That doesn't work for everybody. So I could literally put that away for the rest of the day. And then if I had my other job, which, I taught adjunct at universities, um, it didn't take away from my counselor identity. And I liked that. I can't say that if I had been a barista at Starbucks, I don't think I would have enjoyed that because it wasn't my counselor identity. So maybe you and I right now are actually coming up with a paradigm because I don't know if adding sort of this we'll call it an active side hustle as opposed to a passive one, right? I don't know if that's the solution if you're not able to feel comfortable about the time you've set aside for your business, your family, and you, right? Like if those three pillars are not really in shape, as for many of us, they aren't, then maybe adding an active side hustle is definitely not the answer. Does that sound
Yeah.
right? Does that sound like kind of what y'all been thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. And the other question came up as well of, have, well, two things, financial stability
Yeah.
and benefits.
Yep.
Adding benefits to the picture because I mean, I have the option to add myself to my husband's, but it's a lot of money, a lot of extra money. It's probably like $1,000 a month just to add me and the family and my kids. So that's a real struggle of, do I hustle more or do I push more towards growing my company and hopefully be able to make that extra grand in a month to
Sure.
afford the benefits with my husband, or is like how do we supplement that need, so financial stability number one, and benefits, like how do we do that? Because most people, I mean, they don't give benefits if you're part-time.
Oh
So
my goodness. I couldn't have done what I've done without my husband being in the military. I'll tell you hands down, the comfort of knowing the benefits were there. uh, Anxiety up, cognition down, right? I mean, that brought that anxiety down and it freed me up to build my business. So as you're saying that, it's almost proving our point here that if you don't have extra income to get benefits, you will be anxious. But if you're working a second job, so you're not spending the time on your business, you don't have the client load, you will be anxious, right? So, I mean, it's anybody, and I'm going to call it the gig economy. That's what I've got kiddos who've driven for, Grubhub and, Uber. And so I know we all know what a gig economy is, but that's kind of what entrepreneurs are. I think what I hear you saying is like, okay, how do we transition from being gig workers to, now I'm comfortable. Now I have, the money I need. Where do I put the gas on? Hit the accelerator? Where do I hit right? We're just constantly, what do I? So it comes down to, um, okay, I'm going to be mushy. Where's your heart? Where do you feel called to spend the most time? Do you enjoy all of that marketing, SEO, client building, number running stuff? I mean, is that your love language?
I
Am I
love
put
it.
Okay, good. I thought I was putting you on the spot. Okay, good.
No, I love it. But I understand that to everyone else that's watching, they might not be the case.
Yep.
So part of what I've been learning from my coaches, you can't hire somebody to do it if you don't know how to do it yourself first, because
Bingo. Hmm. I like her. Can we give her props at the end, or him? Can we give them props at the end of this?
probably.
Good.
Okay, I think I'm freezing. Am I
Uh,
freezing?
you are, but I can still hear you. Oh, there
Okay,
you go. You're moving.
I'm trying to stay still.
Present. Here we go.
I'm trying to stay still. Okay, we're good. We're good.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so I I personally I enjoy all the works, and I enjoy more of the managerial part of the of running a practice than I do direct work. I only need at least four direct clients to fill my cup. I don't need a full caseload to fill my cup.
Mhm.
And so, but that's me. Everyone else is different. Most of the colleagues that I speak to, they would hate to run a practice. Um, and so, but me, yeah, I love running it more. I have an undergrad in marketing and advertising.
Oh, so
So
you do love it.
I really enjoy the web editing. I can spend the whole day editing websites. Video editing, I enjoy it myself.
Mhm.
But yes, you're right, and something that that stood out to me from what you said was the main thing is reducing that anxiety. And I think what you're trying to say is also by focusing what you love, and that
Yeah.
reduces the anxiety. And I think something important that you said was focused on making sure that your pillars are steady, that your pillars are strong, and those pillars are, financial security, because that's going to bring anxiety, and then making sure that whatever you're doing, that you're liking it. And that's important, because what if having a side hustle um doesn't, it's doesn't do that, and does quite the opposite.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so there's a book, right? There's a book called, it's not called The Giant Pumpkin because I think that's a Charlie Brown cartoon, but it's called The Big Pumpkin, Mike Meklowitz. And that changed how I think about business because he says basically kind of what your business coach is. Like you pick the thing that makes you money and you spend time on that. So when you're going through all of these things, side hustles, specialties, renting out your office, right? You're going to be able at the end of the year to prioritize, okay, what made me money with the least amount of effort, right? And so for me, that's like commercial real estate. Hello, right? But that's not what we're doing unless you're a landlord, right? So you're going to have to this now we're getting into strategic planning, right? So it's trial and error. You're going to put some things out there that you love, but that take too much time and don't bring any income. And you're going to cut those with the big pair of, scissors. And just heartlessly, cruelly, you're going to kill those things. And you're going to focus on the things that bring the most income with the least amount of time and effort, right? So I think it's really important that we look at that pillar of time management because I mean, my first business coach, the first thing he did was, I need you to use the app Time Tracker, whatever it was, and I need you to tell me next week, embarrassed, right? The amount
Okay.
of time.
Last, I missed your last 10 seconds.
Oh, sorry. So my first business coach, the first thing he had me do was use a time tracker app and to see how I was spending my time on my business, right? I'm making air quotes, right? I was embarrassed. And, because we're professionals and we're thinking, oh, I know what I do and it's important. And I needed to do that. I had to be on Facebook for 2 hours today. So I think that pillar of time management will free up, okay, what is a side hustle? What is a passive side hustle? What's a side hustle that's just dumb and not making me money, and secretly it's a vanity project and I really shouldn't be doing this anyway because it's taking away from everything else. So
Yeah, you
what
know
to,
what's coming up? Social media is coming up. I'm sorry. It just came.
oh no,
It,
go.
yeah, that came up. Making videos on social media. That's so time consuming, and it feels that that need of I need to have a lot of followers, but I don't know how profitable that is.
So one of the things, and maybe, if you're listening to this episode, this will be the thing you go, I've got to go tell my friend about this. There's something called pretty links, and you like to tinker with websites, so you might really love this. Pretty links allow you to track what's working. In the podcast, if I say, hey, we're having a thing this month, go to katewalkertraining.com/whatever. Well, that /whatever, I can go at the end of the week and see how much the podcast is converting to clicks, right? Then I can compare that to sales and see, okay, well, I just started running an ad, for example, in the TCA newsletter. I've been doing that for 7 weeks. Well, it's a pretty link. So I'm able to take the number of clicks and then how many conversions I get that week, and I can see everything. So if it's a 10% conversion, I'm like, but if it's a 20 or 30% conversion, okay, I'm spending my money, because basically that's a side hustle, right? It's an ad, it's money. So
That-
you
What's it
you
called?
it's called pretty links.
Oh,
Pretty links.
pretty link.
Yeah. And so that's what I love, groups like this, like Texas Counselors Creating Badass Businesses, right? Somebody's going to learn about that and they're going to stop doing TikTok, which is great because it's about to be banned, right? They're
Yeah,
going to have to convert. And I know y'all hate my emails sometime. I'm looking at you who unsubscribed. I know, but that's how you build your list. Social media, you could get on there tomorrow and they've like, oh, we've had to unplug your site because you, whatever, used the color orange and we don't do orange anymore, or something like that, right? So that's why having a business coach is wonderful too, because they're going to keep you from chasing those side hustles that are costing you instead of enriching you, right?
absolutely. Yeah, and it's so helpful to have somebody hold you accountable for whatever you're doing and keeps you focused. That's something that has helped me a lot. So you know what? Something that's coming to mind right now.
Mhm.
Um, the immigration evaluations certification. I think. What do you think of that as a side hustle? Because I think it's like about two grand or something just to get um the training, and it could potentially pay back in maybe one or two evals, but it will take. I mean, who knows how long it would take to get those. So what do you think about that side hustle? Keep in mind that it's not really predictable to see how soon you're gonna get that money back.
I think we now have the message for this podcast. That's my dog, Andy. He's about to jump. Okay. You're a very noisy boy. So I think we now have the message for this podcast, which is run the numbers, right? When you buy a supervisor course from me, one of the things we're giving everyone now is supervision, what to charge, because you need to see how bringing on supervisees compares to whatever, right? Because it costs money to take the course. You got to see how you're going to make your money back. We call that a ROI. So if your strategic plan says, okay, I'm going to spend 2,000, it's going to take me 12 hours to get the training, then I need to market in this way in order to get this many whatevers at this cost. So before you ever take the course, you've got a 12-month business plan on how you're going to make that $2,000 back. Don't even think about profit yet. You just want to make that $2,000 back, right?
Right.
Now, then at the end of the year, you get your scissors out because you're going to start pruning the things that did not make any money. So part of your strategic plan is, are you going to give that 12 months? You're going to give it 18 months? You're going to give it 2 years to make the profit. I remember back in the day, I got the best business advice from a client. who said, basically they had a business of, I don't know what it was, something like tanning beds or something like that. And he said, I just need $10,000 a month from each business. Once a business hits $10,000, then I open up another one. And I was like, oh, what a great idea. You have a criteria before you start your side hustle, right? Because every single one of those businesses is a side hustle, right? So start with a number before you open the next side hustle. Now we kind of digressed a little bit because we're not really talking about the supportive side hustle, right? We're talking about, ooh, I'm super comfortable with the income that I'm making from my practice. I've made my quote unquote $10,000. Now I'm
Yeah.
ready to hit the gas on something else, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that totally reminds me of something that I learned from a coach as well. I'm bringing her up so much as well. I mean, I didn't realize how much I would bring her up right now.
That's
Um,
awesome.
it's
Hey.
awesome. I'm learning. Hey, hey. Which was, I don't think many of us, including myself and many of my friends and colleagues, don't realize that when you open up a private practice, it's how important it is to set yourself a limit on your income. Meaning, just because you make profit, it does not equal to you getting like a bigger paycheck for yourself.
Yes. Yes.
That's like gold because I was told, no, I'm making, I mean, I was told, I was explained by somebody who went to practice that she sets herself a salary and that's it. And she runs, I don't know how many practices around Houston. And she says, I could be making so much more, but I'm not going to because I want to put that back into the practice.
Yep.
So I'm like, that's amazing because it also protects yourself from our humanity trying to make more money and it protects us from greed.
Mm-hmm.
That's super important and ethical at the same time because we're not, just looking for the money. We just set ourselves a salary that we're comfortable with and move on.
Yes. It's all about numbers. Absolutely. I mean, I'm not a math major, but I do know if you and your supportive partner sit down and say, okay, this is how much money we need from you and I'm going to throw your benefits question in there.
Yeah.
This is how much money your business needs to bring into our household, right? Benefits, your retirement plan, emergency fund, keeping the lights on, everything. Then you work that business until you have done that. And now,
Mhm.
if you don't have the supportive partner and you need the peace of mind, then you might look at another business to help you have that peace of mind so you can build your business. Uh-oh, are we there? Are we frozen? I think we're frozen.
No, I heard you. I heard
Okay.
you. So, do you think it's advisable to be hired under somebody while you're building a private practice?
I'm going to go back to my numbers, right? If you have the time management, but you notice you need the peace of mind, then absolutely, yes, right? Because you're stressing too much, you're not able to really focus on the things you need to. And if an extra $1,000 a week is going to help you out, do it, right? But you have to commit to yourself. You're going to spend the time that you just freed up in your brain because now you're all relaxed because your lights are on. You have to commit to opening up time to spend on your business. And if
Right.
that's stressing you out, then you got kind of a deeper question. Maybe you're not really the entrepreneur you thought you were, right? Because the thing about being an entrepreneur, it's not secure all the time, right? I
Yeah.
hate to say that, but if you find yourself, and there's no shame in that. Like if you're thinking, oh wow, I really like that W-2 job. I really like it when they take my taxes out, bless you. Me too, right?
Yeah.
So it's okay to try to, we're back to strategic planning, aren't we? Right? It's okay to design a business that meets your needs. In fact, that was like in my readings this morning. I was like, oh, we got to have our needs met. That's okay.
Still great that you say that because something that I was told over and over again was the phrase, think like an employer, not an employee.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's really hard because we're used to, I mean, as an associate and as our background, we're used to having a W-2, most of
Yeah.
us. And
Yep.
it's not just knowing the knowledge of how to do A, B, and C and all the technicalities of it, but it's also having a mind shift within yourself that has to happen first of thinking, being an entrepreneur, it's having that risky part of it and being okay with that.
Yeah. And it's okay if you're not. It's really okay if you're not. All right, I need to close this up because I've got kids coming in a couple of hours and I need to get our act together.
Oh,
Uh-oh, you there?
what happened? No, we're
Oh,
good.
look, the internet heard us. The internet was like, okay. So what are some burning questions just to wrap us up today?
I think you've answered everything. I think just to summarize it, I think it goes back to the numbers, and it also goes back to making sure that your anxiety is down by focusing on doing what you love. I think
Yeah.
I think those are my takeaways. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for asking the questions. I love it when somebody, you tag me and you make me think and it's like, now we got a podcast episode. I love it.
Yes,
Thank you.
I can think of many topics that we can talk about, but we can
Oh,
talk about it at a later time.
put it in the membership, put it on the Facebook page, send me an email. All right, I'm gonna hit pause.